Tell me briefly about the 25th Amendment.
Well, Senator, the 25th Amendment provides the process by which to implement a principle that's in the original Constitution, which is when the president's unable to exercise the powers and duties of the presidency, somebody else exercises them, starting with the vice president. The 25th Amendment sets up a process by which, if there's a question whether the president is able to do that, the vice president and the heads of the executive departments can temporarily basically put the vice president in as acting president, and then Congress ultimately decides the question.
Well, the standard, is it not, Professor? The standard is disability of the president. Is that correct?
Unable to exercise the powers and duties.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video dives into a gripping Senate exchange where Senator John Kennedy confronts legal and political experts about the most powerful safeguard in our Constitution, the 25th Amendment. What happens when a president is no longer fit to serve mentally or physically? Who decides? And what moral responsibility do staffers carry if the commander-in-chief can't command? Grab a coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's break this down together. The 25th Amendment was ratified in 1967 after JFK's assassination, outlining what to do if a president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of the office. A constitutional professor explains that it allows the vice president and a majority of cabinet members to declare the president unfit, temporarily placing the VP in charge pending Congress's decision. Sounds simple, right? But in practice, it's a political and ethical minefield. And Senator Kennedy wastes no time cutting to the heart of it.
Let's suppose the president, you were using your experience as a staffer. You were working for the president, any president. Hypothetically a president. And let's suppose the president started talking like he was from outer space. Let's suppose the president became fatigued very easily. He couldn't finish a sentence without taking a nap. Let's suppose the president, he was just physically in bad shape, mentally and physically. Mentally, he may or may not have, you're not a doctor, neurodegenerative disease, but physically you can see you could bake a Thanksgiving turkey in the time it takes him to walk across the stage. What do you think, as a member of his staff, what do you think is your moral obligation to say, wait a minute, the president can't do the job anymore? I know you're loyal folks. You believe in your president, this president, whichever president. I'm speaking hypothetically. You're loyal. You want to be a good staffer, but you also have a moral obligation. How do you reach that decision, Professor? And I'll go to each of you.
Senator, I think the first thing you would have to do in a situation like that is exercise your own judgment. How serious is this problem? Because everybody has moments when they lose focus, it happens. But if somebody thinks this is a really serious problem, I think the first thing to do is the most difficult, which is to say to the president, because the 25th Amendment also provides that the president can say, I'm unable to exercise the powers and duties of my office.
And suppose the president
That would be extremely
says,
difficult, but I think it should be done.
Look, trust me, I can. And it's clear to you that he has neurodegenerative disease and he can't. What do? Do you have a moral obligation as a staff member to go to the American people and say, we've got a problem here, it may cost me my career?
Senator, I think at that point you have an obligation to talk to the vice president.
Kennedy puts forward a chilling hypothetical. Imagine a president who starts speaking incoherently, forgets words mid-sentence, can barely walk across a stage, physically and mentally declining yet still in power. What's your moral obligation as a staffer? He asks. Do you stay loyal? Or do you speak up, knowing it might cost your career? Kennedy's not naming names, but the implications are crystal clear. The witnesses squirm, but they answer. Each witness gives their take. The professor says you start with judgment, speak to the president, then escalate to the VP. Mr. Wald stresses the need for multiple signs, not just one mistake. If nobody listens, resign, and see and Spicer? He gets blunt. You have a moral obligation to act, he says. If the chain of command fails, you must go public. Let me know in the comments, what would you do if you saw a sitting president in clear decline? The 25th Amendment exists for a reason, but it only works if the people around the president are brave enough to act. If you found this eye-opening, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We break down politics, power, and the Constitution without the spin.
Let's
Until
suppose the
next
president,
time,
you
stay
were
curious,
using your
stay
experience as a
informed.
staffer.